My name is Jason J. Rock Houston, and this is for Categories TV. We got with us today singer Dominick Muzio. How you doing today, Dominick?
Doing good, man. How you doing?
Now, some people may know you from the band Wicked Garden, so I was curious, how long has Wicked Garden been together?
Uh, the band itself is about 12 years old. I've been in it about 10 years now. So
Okay,
it's been a
so it
while.
was an existing project. You're
Yeah.
okay. Wow, wow. And so we're talking today too because you got a new solo EP, I believe it's called Candy for a Funeral. Is that correct? The EP?
Candy at a Funeral, yeah.
Funeral. Okay. So tell us about the new EP. How many songs do we get in on it and that?
Yeah, so there's it was put out by Tone House Records. It's got 5 songs on it. 4 of them are original recordings, and I did a cover of a song by my buddy Todd Kearns called "So Close So Far." So it's nice, it's short and concise. It's don't want to like overload it with filler and stuff like that. So
So talk about the idea to cover of a Todd Kearns song.
mhm.
I mean, I know
So
a lot of times the record company likes you to do a cover, but I dig it because it's not like a song everybody's heard, you know.
yeah, it's Todd's a good friend of mine, and he did a acoustic solo album called "Borrowing Trouble" like 8 or 9 years, maybe 10 years ago now. And that's like me and my wife always joke that's our road trip album. Like whenever we go on a drive, we put that album in there. It's just a fantastic album. It's just Todd and an acoustic guitar, nothing else. So one of the songs in there, "So Close So Far," is one of our favorites. And I was like, man, I would love to cover the song, but I wanted to reimagine it as a full-on rock song with a full band.
Sure, sure.
So when I was recording the record, I brought it up to the producer Jason Constantine, and he was like, he goes, "Man, you're taking a shot there, you know." I'm like, "I know." I'm like, "So here's what's going to happen." I called Todd. I said I was going to do it. He gave me his blessing. I said, and I told Todd, I said, "I'm going to record it, and I'm going to let you listen to it. If you don't like it, it doesn't go on the record. Plain and simple. Just be honest, you know."
Mhm.
So we recorded it. Todd absolutely loved it. And then we put it on the record. It ended up being the second single. We made a video for it. It's actually one of the, I think right now it's probably the most played song on that record right now, as far as
So
streams go. So
is it
yeah, it's pretty cool. And and Todd even says like, man, he goes, you did it the way I would have done it if I did it with a full band. So that meant
and
a lot to
isn't
me.
it kind of funny that the fact that you said you and your wife love that song so much? I mean, that it's always had a special place in your heart, and the
Mhm.
fact that not only do you record a cover version of it, but your fans have reacted in such a positive way that it kind of speaks volumes. It shows that hey, I kind of knew there was something special about this song.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got my wife to sing backups on it as well, which was cool. So yeah, it's and I caught a little flack from it from some people. They're like saying, well, you're doing a cover of his song because you want other people to, whatever stupid shit.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
I like the song, and it just so happens he's a friend of mine. If
yeah,
he
yeah,
wasn't a friend of mine, I would have bought the license anyway to record it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
would have taken the shot. So it's just a great song. It's probably one of my favorite songs that I've ever heard. So it's just
Yeah,
perfect.
Todd Kearns is. I mean, he's really done Canada proud, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah.
I think we were supposed to do an interview a couple of weeks back, and that fell through. I was telling you how the first time I remember hearing the name Todd Kearns is when they had 2 versions of Faster Pussycat,
Right.
and he was in one of those, and since then he's kind of blown up all over the place. He's one of those guys, super talented. Not only is he a great singer, songwriter, he can play the bass, he can play the guitar, like a couple other things. And I've heard him talk in interviews, like as far as playing in Slash's band. He said, I had a choice. What position did I want? That I could either be the bass player or I could be the guitar. But I figured, you know what? Probably Slash is always going to need a bass player. He may not always need a second guitar player. So I think I'll go with that position.
Yeah, and I mean, I knew of Todd from the '90s. I did some gigs with a band from Canada called Moist, and they turned me on to Todd's band, which was called Age of Electric. So I was a fan from back then,
Wow, wow.
and it just so happened, fast forward 15 years later, I'm living in Las Vegas. I walk into a casino one night, and there's this band playing called the Sin City Sinners, and there's Todd Kearns singing. I was like, holy shit. And then we just kind of hooked up a couple years later and became friendly. And yeah, I mean, the guy's just an all around talent. I mean, there's nothing he does poorly. Everything he does, he just does great.
Well,
And I always tell people how
you guys
great
are
is.
friends. Yeah. I'm sorry. I was going to say you guys are friends, but what's that feel like? A guy of his caliber that you have such high respect for. But he is somebody you could call a friend, but he's equally impressed with what you do musically.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a fanboy situation. I have plenty of friends that like I grew up
I
with.
got you.
Yeah, I grew up with Bumblefoot, Ron Thal, who was in Guns N' Roses for a while. Like, I was friends with the guys in Typo Negative and stuff like that, like from back in the New York days. So it's not alien to me to be friends with somebody that has some kind of a fame, around them. Which more it adds a little bit more credence though when they say they're a fan of your stuff. Like that
That's what
makes
I
me
mean.
feel
It
good.
kind of not that you're starstruck or anything, but it kind of, I would think, gives you kind of validation, or at least
Sure.
the thought process that, okay, hey, other people like what I'm doing musically, so there's
Yeah,
that.
exactly. It's like, well, if they dig it, it's got to be pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
yeah, it's cool.
And so that's kind of interesting. So so you knew like Peter Steele and that? Did you know
Mhm.
him?
Yep.
Uh, that's interesting. And so Las Vegas is your home now, you said?
Yeah, I've been here about 15 years now. Yeah.
And isn't it interesting that I know a lot of people are referring to Vegas as Music City, and a lot of the '80s rock guys are now living in Vegas, and it's become one of the places where I hear people like, if you're a musician, you can go walking in the casino, pretty much find, if you're looking for a gig, find a gig. Talk a little bit
Yeah.
about that, because Vegas wasn't always like that, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of strange. I mean, like, I was because of being out in Vegas, I've got to jam like, I was in the band London for a very short
Oh
point of
wow,
time. I jammed with Brett Muscat for a couple of years, from Fast Pussycat, and Phil Lewis from LA Guns, and Blas Elias from Slaughter. Like, I've played with all those guys. Um and yeah, there's a big conglomerate of those musicians here now. Now, as far as it being a music city, I mean, it is and it isn't. And I don't want to slag any working musicians out here, but it's like, if you want to get stuck and do the casino cover band thing, you can, and make a living out of it. That's not for me. Wicked Garden started as a cover band. We transitioned to originals later on. And one of the things that we were known for was just not doing what other bands were doing. Everybody plays the Pour Some Sugar on Me and the Sweet Child of Mine, and we just said, no, we're not doing any of that. If you want to get a gig out here as a casino musician, you're playing the same 15 songs everybody else is playing.
there's a certain amount of fun if you like to go see those type of shows, and even if you're a musician, it's a good way to keep your chops up. But
Oh
I'd
yeah.
imagine too, when you're a gifted songwriter such as yourself, I mean, let's be honest, you'd much rather doing your own material than covering somebody's material.
Yeah, and for a long time I didn't, just because I didn't think anybody cared. And then when Wicked Gardens, started doing our original stuff, and then we got our record deal with Vanity Music and put out our records and stuff, and we got a very good response. I was kind of like, okay, yeah, this is what I should have been doing the whole time. I shouldn't be doing covers anymore. So I just kind of gave up on them, pretty much. We would still take the occasional cover gig just because it pays well. I'm not going to lie to you, money's important.
Yeah.
But for the most part, especially now with doing the solo thing, like, I have a band I put together to promote it called Chemical Tribe. We do some covers, but they're basically set filler. It's basically, I only got the 5 songs of the EP, 4 or 5 new ones that will be on the next record. So it's like, well, some places want us to play 90 minutes. All right, we'll throw a few covers in there too, just to kind of fill up the time.
So in regards to the next record, is that going to be a continuation of the EP, or is it going to just be a full length album of new songs?
It's probably going to be another EP. It's kind of up to Tone House Records what they want to do. We like the idea of doing EPs because of the fact that, like I said, there's no room for filler. You pick your 4 or 5 best songs, throw them out there. There is talks, if there's a demand, we'll combine both of them and then maybe do like a vinyl release of the full record.
Yeah.
That's remains to be seen. Like I said, that's a big expense. So if there's enough of demand for it, we'll do it. So we'll just
So
have to
right
see.
now, that from what you're saying, that the EP just been released digitally, or can people get hard CDs as
You
well?
can still get hard copies of the CD. The first printing sold out, which was kind of cool. So we are going to have some new ones printed up. If you go to the Tonehouse Records website, it's tonehouserecords.com. You can order one there. Or you can go to my websites, my Facebook, or the Dominick Muzio and Chemical Tribe Facebook. There's a website that we're developing now. It's dmclv.com. That's, you would be able to buy them there as well. We'll ship them out to you. So yeah, digitally is of course where
The
most
way
of the
to
listeners
go.
are coming
Yeah.
from, right? But we do have hard copy CDs available as well.
I mean, personally, myself, I'm an old school guy, and what I mean, I miss the days. I don't know about you. I miss the days going to record stores, being able to hold something physical in my hand, looking at the beautiful artwork that was out.
Absolutely.
You
And we
know,
got a great the artwork is amazing on this one. My wife is a photographer. She took a beautiful picture.
Yeah.
You know, I should have the CD with me and I didn't because I
That's all
suck
right.
at my
Yeah.
job. But yeah, and I agree. Like there's something magical about either opening up that vinyl, opening up that CD booklet, reading the
Yeah.
lyrics and checking the liner notes and all that. And it's lost these days. And a lot of kids, they don't, know to do that.
I think you're probably through your social media starting to see who is kind of responding to your EP, who's responding to the music, because let's be honest, Dominic, you're real lucky if when a fan goes to YouTube or they go on your Facebook page, if when they hit on the video to check out the song or the latest single, if they play it all the way through, if they play it all the way through, okay, they're really interested.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah, exactly.
you know,
Yeah.
so
It's
that
you check the insights on them and you see like, okay, there was 35 people listened to it for 7 seconds and then 115 listened for 30. Okay, good, I get paid at 30, so
yeah,
that's a good thing.
yeah,
But I mean, we get the the record itself, like on like Spotify, Apple, and all that, is doing very well. And as usual with my stuff, it's doing better overseas than it is in America.
oh,
Wicked Garden was the same way. Yeah. The record right now, as far as airplay and streams, very good in South America right now. I do really well in Brazil and Chile and so that, but they still have a more of a rock based,
yeah.
scene, where in America it's like
Unfortunately, I
pop.
think that's just the state of the music world. I mean, for example, the latest Def Leppard album, okay, while I'm
Mhm.
not putting it up there with in the same league as say Pyromania or even Hysteria, it was a number one album. But here's the thing: it
Mhm.
was a number one album for 1 week, and then by the next week they forgot all about it, and
Yeah.
something else was number one.
Well, it's all how they calculate it, because it probably went number one by the amount of people who pre-saved it.
Yeah, yeah,
And then once they saved it and streamed it once, then they saved it to their library, and now it's like, well, that doesn't count again, So
yeah.
it's a weird thing. It's like, like I have people, like if you take Wicked Garden and my
Project.
solo stuff and combine it together, it's well over 1 million streams
Wow.
worldwide.
Yeah,
Right. So that's a huge number. Like that sounds amazing, right? A
yeah,
million times has been listened to.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe one kid listened to it 8,000 times in a week. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Like I can't. There's no way to judge that. And if you break it down to everything, well, there's 300 billion people in the world. It's a very small amount.
Yeah.
So you just got to kind of just take it for what it is. Go, hey, yep, million listens. Somebody listened to it. Sounds good.
And even the biggest bands in the world. I mean, you take a band like Mr. Big, they were all over MTV. Billy Sheehan was in David Lee Roth band and that, and
Mm.
and they sold a lot of records. But even Mr. Big, they found they're a lot more popular. I mean, if you go to Japan, Mr. Big is the equivalent of the Beatles. They
Right.
can go and do like 4 or 5 shows a year in Japan. And that band makes bank for a year.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's a good place to be in. I wish I could say I was. I mean, I've had offers to go down to like Australia and South America, stuff like that. And it's like the money's not there for me. Like for a band like Mr. Big, they can command a certain amount.
yeah,
I can't sell them, hey, I need you to cover,
yeah.
5 people, airfare, hotels. I need equipment. I need a publicist. I need this and that. They're like, no, forget it. We'll pay you $200. Okay, well, I'm not coming.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing too, a part of that is very interesting because a lot of like hard rock and metal bands are very popular in Europe, throughout Europe and Australia, as you said, even Japan.
Yeah.
And a lot of the bands, like you look at a band like Wasp, until recently they hadn't toured the U.S. This first U.S. tour they did in 10
Mhm.
years. And when they were first going on the tour, somebody told me a lot of the promoters, oh, they haven't been here in 10 years. We're not really sure, but they went ahead with the tour. It was one of the top grossing tours of last year.
Yeah.
Um, and now they're headed to Europe, and they're selling out all over the place. You just never know, but a lot of these bigger bands, like from the '80s, especially, are bigger in European countries. Or even a band like Wasp, they're an American band, but they tour more in Europe because more
Mhm.
people will come to the shows.
Yeah, and that's how they're making their money. That's how anybody's going to make their money. You're not going to make your money on record sales anymore. I mean, you never made it back then either. So if there's a market that's willing to pay you and it's financially feasible to bring your whole crew and your equipment, then yeah, you should, you would do it. Like I said, I would do it in a heartbeat if it made sense.
Yeah,
You know?
like you're saying, it's for an independent artist like you, it's somewhat of a struggle, but you got your music out there. Somebody's listening to it.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about, you even got a record. So let's share with people again. talk about the people behind the record label. I think fans will be interested in that.
Yeah, so Tone House Records is owned by Jason Constantine, who's a very well-known producer and musician out here. And also Jeff and Sean Duncan. Jeff Duncan, of course, is from Armored Saint. His brother Sean plays in DC4 with him, and also was a member of Odin back in the day. So they own the label. And Jason had produced Wicked Gardens last record. So I had went to him and asked him to put down some acoustic demos that I'd been working on just to have.
Yeah.
And he, recorded them in one afternoon, and then he I guess he talked to Jeff and played them for Jeff, and then they called me the next day and they're like, "Hey, do you want to put a record out on our label, because this is really good?" And I was like, "Well, I'd have to come back in and we re-record it. Obviously, I'm not putting out demos, just do the acoustic stuff." And they're like, "Oh, no, we're gonna do everything. Like, you're gonna play guitar, and we'll get." So me and Jason played all the guitars and the bass. And then I hired my friend Ron Huddy, who's in Chemical Tribe right now, to play the drums, because we want the live drums.
Yeah.
But me and Jason did everything else. I did all the vocals myself. So what you hear is basically just me in a room with Jason, and I was lucky enough that they saw something in it, and I was not the first record that the label put out, but it was like the second, I think. And it's right now it's like the top seller.
It makes a difference being signed to a label where the guys behind the label are actual producers and musicians themselves, as opposed to just say another guy in a suit knows nothing about what life on the road is like, or
Absolutely. I've been with labels where I never met anybody at the label, except we had one phone call to talk about the deal, and then everything came by fax back in those days.
Oh, yeah.
And they didn't give a shit what you did or how you did it. They were just like hoping they could sell something, and then when it didn't work out, they just told you to take a walk. So knowing that there's 3 phenomenal musicians behind it, so they get where I'm coming from. So if I come with a night,
they understand kind of what you're going through, as opposed to somebody who might know nothing about life on the road, life in a band. They're just some guy that works for suit and tie, basically.
Yeah.
Whereas they might, Dominic, I like these songs, but I don't hear a radio hit.
I don't hear a single. Yeah.
These guys actually, they've lived the life, so they kind of understand what you're going through.
Yeah, and it's really good because it's also other people you can bounce ideas off of too. Yeah. I'm not going to call an accountant because I don't know how to go from the B chord to this D chord. I'm not going to do that, but I can, talk to Jason. Jason actually called up Jeff one night because we were having a problem with one of the songs, trying to do a vocal harmony. We were missing something, and Jeff Duncan, although not known as a singer, he has a great voice, but he's really good at harmonies. So he was able to kind of chart out a harmony for us so that we can go back in the next day and kind of work it on that way. So that's definitely a benefit of having somebody like that, involved.
A lot of your songs I noticed have great, there's kind of a great background vocal sound, great, harmony, and the melody is important. It all fits together, and your songwriting really kind of shines throughout the whole entire. Is that something that you really kind of strive for? Because songwriting to me really comes through.
Yeah, first of all, thank you. My songs are my product, right? You're not going to open up a pizza joint and not know how to make pizza. That's the way I look at it.
It almost, you hear this all the time, but you listen to these songs, are great kind of stories, and it's almost kind of like a lot of people might say, maybe it's a page out. These songs are like a page out of your life. Yeah,
and they are. Just about every song I've ever written is written out of a real experience, not necessarily mine. Sometimes it's written. I tend to write in the first person a lot, but everything was experienced either by me directly or somebody close enough to me that I can kind of empathize. So I use a lot of real world stuff and throw it in there.
And let's talk about interpretation as far as people listening to your songs and your music. Do you like telling people what the song's about, or you kind of enjoy when a fan comes up to you and they tell you, hey, I really dug this song, and it reminded me of my dad that just passed away or something, and you're like, well, that's not what it was written about, but hey, if that's your experience, great.
I look at it this way. I want somebody to take whatever they can out of it.
Yeah.
If somebody asks me what a song is about, I'm more than happy to tell them.
Sure,
right.
Sure.
I don't, I love innuendo, and I love, making, like little literary things. Yeah. But the truth of the matter is there's usually a basic idea behind it, and I'm happy to share that.
Yeah.
But if somebody says, this is what this song means to me, and I think it's about this, I am not going to offer it if it's different. If they ask, I'll tell them because I don't want to crush their dreams.
Because to
You
me,
know?
I would think as a songwriter, that would be like a huge gift to you. The fact that that might not be what the song was written about, but it's almost kind of like creating a painting. In a way, music is art, and it's
Yeah.
about interpretation, and it must kind of be a beautiful thing, depending on what they think the song's about. But somebody tell you, "I got this out of the song," and you're like, "Wow, I never would have seen that," but okay, great.
Yeah, that's one of the best feelings in the world. The only thing that I find better than that is when I'm at a show and I'm playing and I look out and I see people singing the words.
Yeah, yeah.
And that to this day that blows me away. Like,
Yeah, and again, I would think because maybe you're not as mainstream as an artist. Let's be honest, to say a Bon Jovi or a Def
right.
Leppard or a Guns N' Roses, who hasn't heard "Welcome to the Jungle" 10 million times on the radio, probably
No.
haven't heard your songs played as much. But and that's why I would think it would mean so. Okay, these people are really into these songs. They know
Yeah.
my songs word for word. So this is my crowd. These are my people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a great feeling. I mean, the first time that I played those songs live, only the single had been released at that point, Special Thing, which was released in August. So we did a show like a week after it was released. And there was already people in the crowd singing it, which was awesome, which meant that they had already been listening to it enough that they had, memorized the lyrics. And then when we did a show a few weeks ago with Todd actually at Vamped, which is the biggest club out here.
Okay.
And it was a packed house and there were people singing the songs. I mean, some of them singing them better than I was because I forget the words half the time when I'm on stage. So it's just a really great feeling to see that. And then to have people who migrated from the Wicked Garden camp,
Yeah.
who I actually thought like, well, this is probably going to turn some people off from the Wicked Garden idea because it's a little bit different. No, they came with me, which was great. And it's really cool to see
And
that.
on the flip side, you must have people discovering you for the first time through this solo EP,
Mhm.
and then they find out about Wicked Garden. Hey, I have this other band over here, and
Yeah.
then then you have another core of people that may only know you from this and
Mhm.
nothing about Wicked Garden, and that's got to be a great feeling because you got fans all over the place.
Yeah, I can disappoint them twice. It's great. No, it's cool. Like, I've noticed Wicked Garden has seen a little bit of a spike in their streaming, I noticed, since my record came out, which is cool. And there's definitely because there's some kind of cross-pollination there. I know like if you go on like Spotify or Apple and play my records, it recommends Wicked Garden too. So that's kind of cool in a way. And that's one of the great things about streaming. I'm not the biggest streaming fan, to be honest with you. However, that is something that I think is really cool when it works correctly. Because I know like Wicked Garden, when we were released the first time, for some reason, the Spotify algorithm kept throwing us out with hardcore punk bands, which we were not.
Yeah.
So it'd be like, did you like Wicked Garden? You must like Life of Agony. No, you wouldn't. It's completely different,
Yeah,
So
yeah.
now it seems it kind of caught itself better. So now, like when it plays my stuff, it will recommend a Wicked Garden song next or something like that. So that kind of
It's kind of funny, because you're talking about these algorithms and a computer, what a computer thinks. I mean, so that's part of it because you don't have the human brain to interact with. But even the human brain. I mean, let's talk about that for a minute. I mean, I remember back in the '80s when Bon Jovi was considered heavy metal because he had long hair.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of whatever and then things get lumped together like that. Oh, okay. Heavy
It's
metal, that's Poison, that's Def Leppard, that's that's Megadeth, that's everything in between, that's White Lion.
yeah.
Yeah.
I had a teacher, I mean, when I was like, I don't know, 10 or 11, and I came to school and I had on a t-shirt of some, middle of the road rock band. It was nobody, like ridiculous. And like it could have been REO Speedwagon for all I know. And the teacher's like, "Are you listening to death metal?" And I'm like, "Oh yes, because death metal is when I think death metal, I totally think of Poison without a doubt. It's whatever people are going to kind of assign to it. If that's what you think. Like when people ask me, how do I define Candy at a Funeral? I don't know. It's a rock record. Is it indie? Well, technically, it's on an independent label. Is it alternative? I don't know. Alternative to what?
Let's talk about those algorithms and the power of the internet. I mean, because of the title, like Candy at a Funeral. I mean, have you gotten any weird responses or weird messages from people thinking it's something else?
No, not really. I get asked a lot about where the title came from. Just about every interview I do, they ask about where that came from.
Yeah.
As far as like people respond, most people like it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
First thing I noticed, I'm like, oh, that's a cool title. I love it.
yeah, and well, and so the funny thing is that it's from one of the songs. There's a song on the record called "Mother My Heart," and there's a line in the song that says, "You're sickly sweet like candy at a funeral."
Okay.
So the line existed before the album title did, and I was like, "That's actually a really cool
Yeah.
title. I think I'm going to use that." And then I researched later, and I found out that there really is something called funeral candy, and it's used mostly in Europe and in parts of Asia. It's given to children that are at a funeral, like to kind of help them through things. So I thought, wow, that's like really beautiful, but it's also morbid at the same time because in my stupid brain, I'm picturing, you know, an Italian funeral where the casket's open, everybody's screaming and crying. There's some little kid eating a fucking Snickers bar, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
like it's just kind of weird in that way. So I kind of like that juxtaposition of it, which is why I went with it.
And how funny, not knowing that beforehand, that kind of the title just gets thrown out there, and oh, it's actually got a meaning behind it.
Yeah, right. I was kind of hoping it didn't. Like once I read it, I was like, ooh, that's kind of morbid. I don't know if I like that now, but it was too late. I already submitted it and went to press, you know.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And let's talk about being a solo artist versus being in a band. I'd imagine one great thing about being a solo artist is it's your own thing. It can be whatever you want. Um, as opposed to Wicked Garden, there's maybe said box where, okay, we can only do songs that have a certain kind of sound,
Right.
no power ballads or anything. Whereas as a solo artist, you can kind of, hey, whatever I write, whatever I want it to be.
Well, if you ask anybody that knows me out here, like they'll say, and they'll say it respectfully, hopefully, because I'll admit to it, I'm an absolute control freak, right? So the difference between the solo and the Wicked Garden stuff is that Wicked Garden was four guys. Even though I can be a very, like I said, controlling person when it comes to music, I still ran everything by them. And if anybody objected, it wasn't done. So like, you know, a couple of the songs that are on this record right now were submitted to Wicked Garden and they didn't want to do them. Fine. I'm less of a control freak with my solo stuff. So I wrote everything on that record. Every note that you hear, I wrote. Well, Jason helped on a couple of things, but for the main songs I wrote. But I kind of let Jason take the wheel on that one and go, okay, listen. And I said this before. I'm going to give you the skeleton. I want you to put flesh and blood on it. You know. So I'm actually controlling things less as a solo artist than I was in a band like Wicked Garden. I put down all the basic tracks and the vocals and I give it to Jason and go, okay, do what you think is going to make it sound good. Yeah. So that was new for me.
Do you think part of that is because in the other band you have, some other guys to fall on where this is all on you? So
I think that's part of it, but I think also there's the fear that I held certain things back from Wicked Garden because I was so adamant of how I wanted certain things to sound that maybe I either upset the guys, and no one's ever said that I did, by the way. This is all my like I said, my scumbag brain. Or that maybe we weren't as successful as we could have been because of things that I insisted, or I said we need to do it this way. So when I finally said to, you gotta remember too, everything was different with this one. Wicked Garden was signed because they had heard our songs, right? Tonehouse signed me after listening to 3 songs on an acoustic, right? There was nothing fleshed out yet. So it's like, well, if Jason and Jeff believe enough in this, then I need to let them throw in their ideas there because they heard something in it, that I may not have realized yet. So that's how that kind of works.
So is Wicked Garden still together, or is it kind of been put on the hiatus?
We're on an unofficial hiatus. 10 years is a long time for any band. We did 2 records. We did, I don't know how many hundreds of shows. Everybody kind of needed a break. There was no falling out. We still talk constantly, like we're all friends. There was no disagreements on anything. There was no bad business deals. It was just, we take a break. Like we need to, chill for a bit and do our own thing. That's why I was recording those acoustic things because I wanted to start doing acoustic shows while waiting for, Wicked Garden to come out.
And have you heard anything from the other guys how they responded to your solo EP?
Yeah, they really enjoy it. I mean, Jay, my drummer, said he thought it was great. Troy loved it. They all had great things to say about it. Jay actually has offered to fill in as a drummer if I need it because there's my drummer Ron is in like 2 other bands. There's going to be a day where he's not available. So I'll just call Jay up and he'll come and play, Yeah. So no, there was nothing but love and nothing but support from those guys, so it was really cool.
Oh wow! And so will there be more live shows to support this, or pretty much is it just like locally in Las Vegas, or do you hope to go to other states?
So I mean, for right now, it's just local. I would love to do a small tour if possible. Again, it is a money issue. I mean, I'm not a young guy. I'm a
Yeah,
middle-aged man. The guys in my band are all, married with kids, mortgages, whatever.
yeah,
I can't tell them, hey, we're going to go on a road for 3 weeks and no one's
I
getting
got,
paid.
yeah,
It's just not
yeah,
going to happen.
yeah.
So if the opportunity presents itself and it makes financial sense, then we're going to do it. For right now, we'll play locally.
Okay.
I was speaking to Tone House today, literally, and they want me to get back into the studio. It looks like April.
Wow.
So I'm going to guess you'll probably see a new EP by the end of this year.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Beginning of
And so
next year, maybe.
and so let me ask you, Dominic. When you do these solo shows, will you be playing any Wicked Garden material? You stick still, or just strictly solo?
Right now, it's strictly the solo stuff. Yeah, I never wanted to cross contaminate, if that makes sense.
I got you. Okay.
I will say this, and I don't think this is an unfair way of saying it. If Wicked Garden was to completely dissolve and go, look, we're done, let's call it a day, then I would do Wicked Garden songs because I wrote a good majority of them.
Yeah.
So I would definitely take probably about 4 or 5 of them and add them to my live show. Because people ask for them, like when I play my solo stuff, people will call out Wicked Garden songs, and it's just like, nah, I'm not doing that right now.
Yeah.
I love the songs, I still love playing them, but as long as Wicked Garden still exists, even
Yeah.
if it's just on paper, so to speak, right now,
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that because I wouldn't want to cross contaminate and dilute that product.
Well, Dominic, I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to do this. I really enjoyed finally getting a chance to do this interview the right way. And let's make a point to keep in touch. And
Yeah,
next time we drop a new single or something, I'd love to talk to you some more.
absolutely, man. Anytime. I appreciate you,
And
dude.
so thank you for and the interview we just did probably should go up sometime next week.
Okay.
Once I have a date, I'll let you and Dave know. So thanks for doing this, and let's keep in touch. Okay.
All right, brother. I appreciate you, man. You have a great night.
Bye bye.
See you.